Howdy guys, Cub here. Welcome to Minecraft Snapshot 19w41a. We got a lot to cover in this snapshot, a bunch of new blocks and mechanics, and we're also going to be taking a look at the previous 2 weeks of changes in the snapshots, so let's go ahead and get started. There are 2 new blocks in the game this week. The first is the HoneyComb block, which you can see in front of me right here. This is what it looks like in individual block form, and the way you make the HoneyComb block is you basically get honeycomb from hives, and then you place honeycombs in a 2x2 to get your honeycomb blocks just like that. So that is the HoneyComb block. And we also have the honey block itself. So this is a transparent block and has a lot of unique properties which we'll get into. But you can place it down. Makes a weird sound. So there you go. That's the honey block. And you craft this simply by putting 4 honey bottles in a 2x2. And that gives you your honey block. And you also do get to keep the glass bottles, which is nice. So yeah, just honey bottles in a 2x2 gets you your honey blocks. Now let's get into a couple of the properties of honey blocks. So honey blocks basically limit your walking and jumping ability. So I'll just show you here. If I sprint toward these honey blocks, you'll see when I get onto the honey blocks, I have a noticeable decrease in speed. This is actually me sprinting here. You can see I start to sprint once I get off the honey blocks once more. But it definitely slows you down fairly significantly when you're walking on the honey blocks. So in addition to affecting the speed of the player, the honey blocks also affect how high you can jump. So if I try to jump up this 1 block gap, can't do it. Can't jump up 1 block gap. So you can see I actually am jumping and getting somewhat off the ground, but not high enough to clear the block. Now you still can simply walk up half slabs from honey blocks. So like this right here, you can simply walk up this half slab, but you can't jump at least very high onto other things. So like this snow layer, this is 6 snow layers, which are 0.625 blocks tall. So I can't actually jump onto these. This is not a full block, by the way. So you can't jump very high at all on these honey blocks. And yeah, they also have some other unique properties in regards to movement. So here I am now on top of a tower of honey blocks, and if I go ahead and jump off the side and then try and slide down the honey blocks, check this out. I can actually do that. So I'm just straight up sliding down the side of the honey blocks, and we reach the bottom, no problemo. It's also worth noting that items fall slower with honey blocks, so if I throw an item right at the honey block here, you can see that it definitely falls much, much slower than a typical item would. And there's particles coming off. And it also makes a little sound there. And so, yeah, that is an interesting thing. And it also preserves the item's momentum, it seems. So if I throw this like that, you'll see it still keeps going to the left-hand side. It doesn't just stop it like in the horizontal direction and then just goes vertically down. It actually preserves its momentum as it came in at. So that's pretty cool. Another interesting property of the honey block is that when the honey block is pushed or pulled by a piston, it then attempts to move all adjacent blocks in the same direction, very similar to what slime blocks do. So if I hit this button and the honey block moves, it pulls all the blocks that are attached to it, just like this. Also, in case you're wondering, honey blocks do indeed stick to slime blocks, as you can see right here, and also slime blocks stick to honey blocks, like so. Honey blocks also do a significant amount of fall damage reduction. So just as an example here, if I jump off of this honey block here down to normal ground, see it took about 9 hearts of damage off me right there. But if I go into creative, we're going to fly up to the top of this and we're going to jump again. Let's see how much damage we get if we jump on the honey block. All right, so here we go. Same height, jumping onto the honey block. And you'll see it only took about 2 hearts of damage, so a pretty significant reduction in fall damage if you actually land on top of a honey block. Another feature of honey blocks is that if you stand on a honey block that's pushed by a piston, you come along for the ride, basically. So, yeah, you can see I got a clock here that's pushing these honey blocks back and forth, and I'm being moved back and forth myself on top of the same honey block. Now, I can actually still, like, move around and everything, and yeah. If I just simply now jump, I hear and I time it right, I think I should be able to move, yep, horizontally. So there you go. And you can make like a player transporter that transports you horizontally without you actually moving the keys. So I can actually move back here if I jump at the right time here. So yeah, I'm moving to the left now without, again, I'm not hitting WASD, I'm just simply jumping up and down. So that's an interesting way to potentially make a player transport mechanism. And by the way, this also does work for items. So if I put an item on here, you can see that actually then will move the item left and right. So probably some great uses for that mechanic as well. By the way, the same thing does also apply to mobs. So if the mob is on a honey block, then yeah, the mob will also get transported in that direction. Icons have now been added for the saturation effect, which you can see right here. Instant health, which you can see right here, now also has an icon. And instant damage has an icon now as well right there. Now it's worth noting that you won't see the instant health or instant damage icons when you hit yourself with a potion, but you can see the saturation effect if you eat a suspicious stew that has the saturation effect. It'll only show up briefly, but it is there. One awesome quality of life change in this snapshot is that we can now craft up stripped wood from stripped logs. So all you need are some stripped logs in a 2x2 like this, and that gets you your stripped wood. So very awesome change right there. There's also been a big change in this week's snapshot with Iron Golems. So Iron Golems will now start to crack when they take damage. So if I hit this guy here a few times, should see some cracks starting to appear on him. Yep, you can see he's now like all cracked. If I just keep hitting him a few more times, it gets a little bit worse. Yep, there we go. Yeah, you can definitely see it now. Definitely cracked. And what you can do is you can simply right-click them with an iron ingot, and that repairs the Iron Golem. So let's see if I can click him a few more times. There we go. Looks like he's fully repaired now. So now if I try and click him again, yep, that's it. He's now fully repaired. So yeah, so that's a way you can do that. So if your Iron Golem gets damaged and gets all cracked like this, you can just right-click him with an iron ingot to repair him. Another great change in terms of accessibility is that sneak and sprint inputs can now be switched between hold and toggle mode in the accessibility options. So if I go to options, accessibility, you'll see I am currently on sneak to hold, but I can sneak to toggle this. So basically if I sneak now, you'll see I actually remain in sneak mode until I actually press shift again. So this is going to save a lot of people's pinkies, especially on things like parkour maps. So like what you could do is you could have a situation where, like, let's say this is our parkour area right here. So if I toggle this, I can do this, toggle it on. So now I'm sneaking, toggle it off, toggle it on. I'm sneaking again, so I don't fall off any blocks. So this is going to be huge for things like that. And just to show you the same thing you can do with sprint. So if I want that to be toggled, so now if I start to sprint and then I stop, I can now press forward and I instantly start to sprint. So if you always want to sprint, it's great to turn that into toggle so that you don't have to double tap or hold control while sprinting. So then if I toggle it back off, it goes back to how it was, and now I have to double tap or hold control to start to sprint. So huge change to the accessibility options, and a very welcome one at that. There's also a new command, the /spectate command, and you can see the arguments here. You need a target and a player, and this makes a player in spectator mode spectate an entity. So those are the changes from this week's snapshot, but now we're going to take a look at the changes from the previous couple of weeks of snapshots. So the first change is that enchanted tridents now actually look enchanted. So you can see here, this trident actually has a enchanted glint, so that is a good change. Another bug fix is that players will now place rails in the direction they're facing at all times. The only exception is if a rail can hook up. So if I hook a rail up, let's say like right here, then the rail will connect this way. So that works for all rail types. So if I place it this way, it goes this way. If I place it this way, it goes this way. So there's no like cardinal direction now for rails. It's whichever direction you're facing, that's the direction that the rail will face. You used to be able to destroy an iron door simply by breaking it with your hand, and the iron door would drop. Now you can still break the iron door by hand, as you can see here. It just takes an extremely long amount of time. However, as you will also see, the iron door no longer drops as an item. By the way, I realize that very few people will be affected by this bug, but if you are, that's awesome. Another new change is that banners now have a breaking animation, which you can see here if I punch it. See right there. Has an animation until it finally pops off. Another change in the 1.15 snapshot is that parrots will now remain on the player's shoulder and sit on your shoulder when you're riding. So you can see I'm riding a horse right now, and the parrot is remaining on my shoulder, not falling off or anything. I can even go down blocks or jump, and the parrot remains on. So this is a great way to transport parrots long distances, whereas before it was a bit of a pain because you'll see if I actually get off the horse, and yeah, I fall down a little bit, then the parrot will actually fall off anytime I jump like this. So that's a bit annoying, but now you can basically ride around on horses or on pigs and things like that, and the parrot will remain on your shoulder. There was also a bug where mobs could not spawn on top of redstone lamps or jack-o'-lanterns anymore, and that has now been fixed. So if I go ahead and switch the game mode here from peaceful to hard difficulty, we should see we get a bunch of spawns on this redstone lamp platform relatively quickly, and yeah, you can see a couple of them coming in right there. So fantastic. Mobs can now once again spawn on top of redstone lamps and on top of jack-o'-lanterns. There are also a lot of bug fixes with regards to bees. So for instance, a bee will now no longer enter a burning hive or nest, and also if the hive or nest catches on fire, you'll see the bees will actually like abandon ship. This guy actually just got expelled from the beehive because it was on fire. Also, if the beehive or nest is destroyed like that by fire, the bees, any remaining bees inside will also be expelled. So in addition to what I showed today, there were a ton of bug fixes in the last couple of snapshots, so be sure to check out the change logs in the description below if you want to check those bug fixes out. But for now, that's it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. This has been Cub. Goodbye.